Hello everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about Ruby Rose and a recent controversy surrounding certain allegations about how she was treated during her time on set. Now this may be quite a long video, so I will leave a timestamp within the description and I will try to be as concise as I can when breaking all of this down because there is so much to cover over this issue. Now just in case anybody who doesn't know, Ruby Rose is an Australian actress who played the lead role of Kate Kane within the comic book series Batwoman in its first season, and you can check out my previous coverage and current reviews of the show, and I will leave links for those within the description as well. Now back in May of 2020, Ruby Rose announced that she departed the show, and when that news broke, she didn't initially disclose any specific reason for her leaving. Now there was certain speculation as to why she left. The main impressions were that she didn't like the working hours or the routines in terms of a television show, because primarily to this, she wasn't really that much of an experienced actress. She had been in the likes of the Netflix Orange is the New Black, but she was fairly new in terms of working within the industry. Now later on, back in September and October 2022, she gave more details as to why she left the show, outlining the fact that it was due to an injury that she suffered on the show in terms of her upper back and her neck. And following surgery that she had, she made a quick return to filming of the show, and she stated that maybe she returned to the show too quickly. She made to return to the show 10 days after the operation was primarily the main reason why she left the show. Now despite giving that reason, she still spoke very cordially about the CW and her over-experience on the show, and she also gave support to Javicia Leslie, who took over the lead role of the show as Ryan Wilder for season 2 and season 3. So after she made that statement, we really didn't hear any more about this particular issue. The show moved on and Ruby Rose moved on. She's carried on making certain movies since departing the show, so there really didn't seem anything more to talk about this. Then, of course, recently on the 19th of October this year, without any precedent, Ruby Rose took to Instagram, making several posts that are very explicit and detailed in terms of what happened to her whilst filming the series. Now, I won't read all of the statements verbatim as to what she posted. I will show extracts of them on screen, and I will just go over the main bullet points as to overall what statements she made throughout these various posts on her Instagram. Now, the first point she made is that she stated that she didn't quit the show and that they ruined Kate Kane and destroyed the show overall in terms of Batwoman. She called out various high figures of the showrunners in terms of Dries, who's the main showrunner of the show, Greg Berlanti, who's one of the main executive producers, and also Peter Ralph, who was a Warner Brothers TV executive for a long time and I believe has recently resigned. She then went on to call out Peter Roth, accusing him of making young women steam his pants while he was still wearing them. That's a very outlandish accusation. Again, we don't know if that's true. We haven't heard anybody else come forward to support those allegations, but that was one of the main posts that she led with. She recently then showed a video of her x-ray operations at the time during her injury. She then expanded on the reason for her returning to the show so early after her operation, that she was actually ordered to return to the show by the CW, with the threat being that if she didn't return to the show, then the whole cast and crew would be fired and it would be down to her and she would end up costing the production millions. She then referred to a video of her announcing her non-attendance at a Comic-Con event back in 2019 during the promotion of the first season of the show. Now just quickly, there was quite some speculation about this when they were promoting the first season of Batwoman and she didn't attend. Many people were speculating because why would the main lead of the show not promote the show within its first season? And she gave a video just basically apologising for the fact that she wouldn't be able to return in the show. Now, when posting this, she also put an extra caption beneath this video stating that she took a huge pay cut for a passion project concerning this show, and that initially she was pressured into making the announcement because the show wouldn't announce that she wouldn't be able to attend. There were no efforts being made by the CW to reschedule the event so that she could make an appearance. She then made a further statement stating that she wouldn't return to the show for any amount of money or if there was a gun to her head. She then referred to a quite horrific incident when a crew member got third-degree burns to their body and that the actors all had to be taken to therapy after witnessing the skin fall off the crew member's face. That's quite a gruesome detail. Again, very explicit. That's not something that really we would normally expect to hear from actors disclosing that level of detail in terms of what happened on set. Now, we all know that accidents do happen on set, particularly when you're looking at a superhero show that involves certain action scenes. And when you watch the show, yes, there is a lot of fight scenes within Batwoman, so you would expect some sort of injury happening to stunt doubles in particular. But when you get an incident like that, the studio always tries to cover up because it can potentially give the impression that not all is well in terms of the safety on set. She then mentions that she was told to do a sex scene without preparation, basically on a minute's notice. Now, just to be clear, when she talks about a sex scene in terms of the show, this is nothing explicit or gratuitous. When you actually watch the show, this is just basically kissing scenes between her and another female character within the bed. It's literally about a 10-20 second scene, so it's nothing too gratuitous. Is that really that important? Okay, you didn't have a minute's preparation, but it's not really that much of an explicit scene, so you can make of that what you would will. She then goes to talk about an incident when she was cut in the face and closely to being blinded during an action scene. As I mentioned before, this is something that is commonplace when actors are getting involved in certain fight scenes. We do expect injuries, we do expect a few cuts and bruises. Most notably, we look at what happened with Harrison Ford on the Indiana Jones set, where he suffered a shoulder injury and had to take some time out. So this happens all the time, but again, she said she was closely to being blinded. Again, we have to take a word for that, whether that actually happened or not. She then referred to a well-known incident where a crew member was left quadriplegic following a major incident within the set, and that members within the CW didn't do anything to help or support this individual. This individual had to start up a GoFundMe campaign on the internet in order to get support for her following the incident. Now, she gave one of the major reasons for this was that the showrunners refused to shut the show down during the pandemic. Now, when delving into further details of this incident, the actual crew member wasn't a stunt double, but was actually a PA who was actually walking around the set at the time. And the reason they got injured was because they were on their phone and they didn't hear what was going on around them. She then made another statement about the main showrunner, Dries, stating that she has no heart and that she had no consideration for the other actors. She basically wanted to rush through the completion of the show during the pandemic, and that she only appeared on the show 3 to 4 times throughout the year. We generally don't expect showrunners to appear on the show all the time. They are busy constructing the show and helping out with the scripts, but once that's complete and they've cast all the actors, they've set all the locations, and they begin filming, they really then leave it more to the producers and the actors and the directors and the editors to then carry out finishing off the show. I wouldn't expect the showrunner to be on the shows, not necessarily 24/7, but a lot on the time, because they've got other commitments as well. Now, previously, we've had no real hints in terms of the relationship between Ruby Rose and the showrunner, so again, we can only go by what Ruby is saying in this particular instance. She made further statements when she admitted that she did fight people on set, but it was only because to preserve the safety of other members within filming the show. So again, there wasn't too much details given in that statement. She then made a very explosive statement concerning fellow actor Dougray Scott, who played her role of Jacob Kane, who was her father, and he was also the main director of the Crow security firms within the show. And she made some very serious allegations stating that Dougray Scott was very abusive towards women. He was constantly yelling at them. Also stated that Dougray Scott hurt a female stunt double and that he was very unprofessional throughout the show. And this is when things get quite intense, when you are making accusations not only about showrunners but also about your fellow cast members. She would then also go out to call out Camrus Johnson, who we know plays Luke Fox within the Batwoman show, who's basically the tech guy within Wayne Enterprises. Now, in terms of Camrus, she made certain statements that when she made a return to the show following her injuries, there were certain instances when she would arrive on the show late as she was still in recovery mode, and Camrus Johnson made remarks about her in terms of her being late on the show, stating that if the lead actress actually appeared on time, then maybe the show would be completed on time. So again, I think that's very tit for tat, that's very petty. As we mentioned before, we always expect some form of disagreements within certain actors on the show. I don't think that's as serious as what the statements about Dougray Scott was, but again, it just sheds further light as maybe there was certain disharmony within the set itself. So this is obviously so much material, and content that we've got to go through. So when I look at all of what Ruby has stated within her Instagram post, the first question that a lot of people are asking is why now? Why has she waited now to come out with all of these revelations and allegations? Now, the likely answer is that with most actors and cast and crew on any films or movies, they all have to sign some sort of contractual non-disclosure agreement when they can't speak explicitly about what happens within the set. So we can only assume that her non-disclosure agreement has now expired, as she left the show a couple of years ago, and now she feels that she's more free to talk about exactly what happened. It could be an example of where she's been feeling the pressure of experiences on the show, and she's just reached a certain breaking point when she felt she had no other choice to release this information. There's also the other option that maybe other actors or cast members have experienced very similar situations to Ruby Rose. They don't feel as confident as coming out, and maybe Ruby Rose is also speaking up for others when bringing these allegations to the table, hoping it will have a snowball effect and encourage others to come forward. So in terms of those reasons, it's perfectly understandable, but for me it does raise debate again. Should actors and actresses speak out if they've been severely mistreated on set? Now, I've always said that anybody working within the entertainment industry should raise their issues and try and resolve them behind closed doors, because first off, it covers yourself legally, because any public statements could be used against you. We've recently talked on this channel with the likes of both Gina Carano and Ray Fisher, who themselves came out on certain incidences on social media regarding their own issues, and personally I think this is the wrong way to go, because again, it can affect your own brand, your own image, and your ability to work within the industry in long term. We also talked on this channel about the likes of both Scarlett Johansson regarding her lawsuit and how she didn't post anything on social media, and eventually she got the issue settled and walked away with alleged amounts of 20 to 40 million. We also talked about Gal Gadot, who had certain issues with Joss Whedon on the set of Justice League. Well, she outlined that she reported the issue to HR and she got the issue resolved. To me, that's the far more appropriate way to settle any potential issue. You always do it behind closed doors, again, to protect yourself in terms of your image. And it also, in many ways, can leave you in such higher regard, the fact that you were able to handle it in a far more professional manner. So when I look at everything that Ruby Rose has said, the amount and level of explicit detail that she has gone into, I really feel at this case that she really has to file a lawsuit. I think it's gone beyond the point where it can be resolved behind closed doors. This is clearly much more of a case of tit for tats, or little beefs or dramas or little disagreements between actor or actresses on set. You really have to now follow it through. If she doesn't do anything more with this, then it really undermines her credibility. As we all know, the nature of the way that entertainment and news is consumed now, most instances have a shelf life of 24 to 48 hours, and then people move on to the next topic. It's not really enough to post on social media and just leave it there. If she truly believes that she was abused on set, then she has to go through with it, not only for herself but also to set a precedent. If she goes through and files a lawsuit and it really does have a significant impact, then this will encourage more actors and actresses to come forward who have also been mistreated on set. So for me, it's very important that I think Ruby, if she feels that she has been mistreated, that she's got to really stay the course and follow through on all of her claims and allegations. Now, just to be clear here, we do have to remember that we are only hearing Ruby's side of things. So we also have to make sure that we take everything into account before jumping to conclusions. We also have to add that nobody as of yet has come forward to actually support Ruby Rose in terms of her overall claims. She stated in her statements that she went out in terms to help support other crew members, but so far nobody else has come to back up Ruby Rose. Now, Warner Brothers has come back and responded to Ruby Rose's claims, basically stating that she was fired from the show due to her bad behaviour and unprofessional manner. Now, I'm not really convinced by the statement overall. It's a very much of a bland, very much of a corporate statement, I would say. But at the same time, whenever you get situations like this, the studio is not going to come out and say too much. Now, normally the tactic surrounding allegations like this is to not respond and hopefully leave the issue to die down, because by responding you risk inflaming it even further. But this was a case where Warner Brothers had to respond, and like I said, it was a very blank statement. Now, actor Dougray Scott has also come back, basically saying that he rebukes the allegations from Ruby Rose, and he also confirmed that she was also fired from her show for being unprofessional. So it's no real surprise that Warner Brothers, Dougray Scott and Camrus Johnson have come forward to respond to Ruby Rose's claims. I cannot say right now in terms of those individuals that what she's saying is true. But other incidences involving her operation and being told to come back 10 days after it and being very much threatened to come back, otherwise other people will get sacked from the show, I can believe that, because in terms of Hollywood, there is a very much of a cutthroat attitude. These people, these showrunners and directors, they're being put under severe pressure to get these shows completed on time, especially when you look on a show like Batwoman, which regularly has 20 plus episodes to film, and this is a constant on the go operation. They constantly film at least 8 to 9 months throughout the year, and of course this is amplified even more so due to the pandemic, which would have hindered productions, especially if somebody contracts the virus. And again, everybody has to quarantine and take safety protocols and wear masks. So I can actually believe the allegations in terms of her being put under pressure to come back from the show earlier after her operation. So what will be the implications of this? What will happen in terms of Ruby Rose herself and the overall show? Well, as I mentioned already, I think it really depends on whether Ruby Rose follows through and files a lawsuit. So if she does, then it will really leave the production open into question, because once you go to court, then you have other parties involved wanting to carry out investigations. It will really, I think, bring the whole production of the show to a halt. I can't really see how the show would be able to continue if you have certain investigations happening. Now, maybe many people can say it can do, because Ruby Rose is no longer involved within the show. Now, I honestly feel if it came to a halt and certain allegations were proven to be true, then it would either result in a complete overhaul within the show in terms of certain showrunners having to depart and then showrunners being brought in, or it could indeed involve the show to be cancelled overall. As we all know, the show is already struggling in terms of ratings. They really are fighting a uphill battle to justify the show going ahead for any future seasons overall. So any controversy and fallout from this issue, I think, would probably result in cancellation of the show. It just wouldn't be worth continuing the show overall if you have this constant controversy hanging over everybody. We then have to go and ask, what about all other shows, the likes of Supergirl and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow and Black Lightning? We all know there are various other issues going on within those shows. Were there certain issues as to why Melissa Benoist decided not to continue with Supergirl? We look at Arrow, and Stephen Amell decided not to continue with the show, originally citing having to make the long commute from Los Angeles, I believe, to Vancouver. But were there certain issues going on there? We do know there were certain fractions going on in terms of Black Lightning, involving the likes of China, who plays Jennifer, and also Chris Williams, who plays Jefferson Pierce in the lead role. So there'll be further questions about that. We could even expand this even further when we could maybe look at the likes of Smallville, and there'll be further investigations there. We all know there were certain issues with One Tree Hill in terms of the actresses who have came out in interviews outlining the certain issues regarding them, and Mark Swan as well. So it could really open a whole Pandora's box and a can of worms in terms of investigation. If I were to make any certain predictions, I feel that they would go to extreme lengths to try and settle this up. I think they would try to contact Ruby and try and resolve this to make sure that she wouldn't make any further statements. So it really does hinder on how motivated Ruby is, how much aggrieved she felt she was to this overall issue, and how much she feels she will push this overall. Now, she did state in her statements that she does have enough documentation to make an hour-long documentary. So we may see further down the line, a couple of months, even more details resolved. And she also stated in her post that she has passed on the information to the required people. So I think there will be a further lawsuit, and we will wait and see what happens going ahead in the future of this incident. So I definitely feel that this isn't the last that we have heard of this. Maybe not in the next upcoming weeks, but certainly definitely in the next upcoming months, and we'll wait and see what happens in the future. But I would say there will probably be a likely lawsuit, and it will probably result in either overhauling of the show or a certain cancellation, but we'll wait and see. But it's been a very extensive topic. A lot of people have covered this in the future, obviously because it's very trending, so they're exploiting this, but also but as I said, this is a very long issue, a very long discussion. But if there are any other further incidences, then I will continue to cover them within this channel as well. So those are my thoughts and feelings on Ruby Rose and the recent allegations regarding her time on filming Batwoman. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If there are any further other incidents, then I'll continue to report them as well. But what are your thoughts? Let me know what you think. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.